Dad Pod.
This is a video thing as well.
Does have a name?
Podcast.
Midlife crisis.
Paddy Daddy.
Midlife crisis.
Dadcast.
That's not bad, actually, yeah.
Dadcast with Nivea Men. Try Ireland's #1 skincare brand.
Yes, you are very welcome along to this week's episode of Dadcast. All the dads are here, nearly in glorious Technicolor. Dave is here.
Hi, lads.
Nathan is here.
Hey, Chair.
Adrian is not here, but he is here. Adrian,
Howdy.
you're remote. You didn't get the memo, or you did get the memo. You just refused to come in. He doesn't love us.
Well,
He's picked his actual children over
our
us.
producer Catherine would argue that we didn't get the memo. That none of us were meant to be here. We have we should as always thank our producer, or for the first time probably thank our producer Catherine, and of course Emma, who's working out there. She now hates us more than she hates the Golf Weekly crew,
Well, I
which
don't think
is
so.
which is
No.
What?
No, don't be ridiculous, she says.
wow. I'd say it's getting close though.
No, it's not getting close. You've got years of chiselling away at her.
Well, in fairness, we keep this to a reasonable length, I suppose. Which
Yeah.
the entire day isn't gone. Anyway, how are you?
Yeah, good. Dadcast is in partnership with Nivea Men. Want to feel great in your skin? Nivea Men has you covered, from sensitive, tailored skincare to cleansing and anti-age. Try Ireland's #1 men's skincare brand. How are you, Adrian Barry?
I'm good, yeah, good. I'm glad to see Nathan has switched on and has got my back there. Thank you, Nathan.
What do you mean switched on?
About the fact is we were all meant to be at home.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But all is good, yeah. Some interesting topics. Dave's been busy over the last half an hour picking out some topics.
Well, I did wake up this morning and remember it was my week to come up with a couple of topics, so kind of try to phone it in. Although I have made a huge effort to be here in the presence of two of the other dads, so I think that cancelled out my lack of application when it came to putting the topics together.
I think it's important that maybe we address the reason why you're in the city centre. Well, you've just had an experience.
Not an experience I'm going to discuss in the Dadcast.
Are you sure?
Yeah, positive.
Really? I didn't
Well,
hear
it
about
might
this.
be good Dadcast material.
Well, it's more
Your
just...
jokes are terrible, Dave, so you
It's more
better
just
give us something.
aging men material. Well, you get to a certain point in your life that when you visit the doctor, additional procedures occur that may not have taken place if you were to visit said doctor in your teens or 20s. I think that's as far as we're willing to discuss it.
Oh, Adrian's always keen to talk about this.
Yeah. Is this
come
the
on,
conversation we've
You're
had
amongst
previously?
friends.
Anybody out
Turn that
there,
up a bit more out there so the whole News Talk office can hear exactly what Dave is talking
any
about.
dads out there,
That'd be just
or
great.
non-dads who may listen to us, because there have been one or two of those in the past, will know what we're talking about.
Since we discussed this, what I understand to be the topic that we're actually talking about, is that right? On the show a few weeks ago?
You just explain for anybody who is just new to the
I'm
business.
lost.
Go on.
So I'll take the lead here. Dave might join in. I'll lead off, Dave. We're on the way. No, we discussed a few weeks ago. I was sort of asking about. I had decided that I was going to get I could be in the wrong postcode here, so feel free to shoot me down. But I was going to get a prostate check.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to the doctor, and we discussed about the traditional method of having a prostate exam, and I'm kind of interested to get Dave's input now, because when we discussed all that, it's out in the open. I went to the doctor, and and I was getting ready for the procedure, and the doctor was like, "Oh, we'll just take some bloods, and we'll send those off." And
Stand up there. Stop bending down there, Adrian.
that's right. That's how it.
Put your clothes back on.
that's how it
What?
works. Oh, but yeah. So that was what I understood to be the latest methodology for testing.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
So it was a blood test.
Yeah, but there's a blood test done in a certain way afterwards. There's no need to go into the detail. But if you are, I'm 43 years old. If you go to the doctor about any sort of an ailment, there's a very good chance that
You're lying.
very good chance that certain things are going to be checked, and rightly so. Men do need to get these things checked with far more regularity and accept the fact that you are getting older.
You did seem quite cheery this morning when I met you. Remarkably so.
You have sent some stuff through for us this week, Dave. A couple of things. One of them, I think, was it Tanya Sweeney in the Indo was talking about missing the moments of like those last few moments That yeah, but it's kind of we've talked about this a bit before. Bruce Springsteen was talking about facing your own mortality. You know, standing on the train tracks and the white light is coming towards you, and you have this intense moment of clarity. You've had that moment of clarity about while you're in it.
Yeah.
Lamenting the fact that this is going to pass. This too shall pass.
Yeah, we have talked about this quite recently as well, but it's just that it's one of those kind of dadcast topics that is presenting itself on a weekly basis in my own life when I'm spending time with the two boys. And Tanya Sweeney was just talking about, well, she was actually specifically discussing words that your children will mangle as they continue to develop their grasp of the English language. I mean, my 8-year-old, I think there's only one word that he mispronounces now, and I know that that's going to go pretty soon.
Yeah.
6-year-old, a couple of other ones. Obviously, words like hospital, for example, is...
You have to write it down, otherwise you forget them.
Yeah.
We had a list for a couple of years ago and wrote them down. They always bring us great joy.
Yeah.
But like, we had porridge groats for a while, which we will still say.
But do you ever find yourself correcting your child's pronunciation of a word and saying to yourself, like, if you keep correcting them, they're going to get it right, and that word will no longer be in your life?
Yeah. No. I think they're gonna learn.
Yeah, like when we're in the pool, I bring them to maybe the pool once or twice a month, and the young girl in particular loves if I grab one of those long cylindrical floats, and then we do an obstacle course, so they have to beat each other and jump and see how far they can jump into the pool. Or
what do you call the long cylindrical floats?
I don't know what they're called.
What do you
Flumes? Are they? No.
No, they have a name that's not going.
Spaghetti. They're spaghetti. Something.
No.
Yeah, we call them rainbows.
Okay.
Oh, they have an actual name.
It's in the shape of a rainbow when it's bent properly.
Okay, fair enough. Look, well, whatever.
Noodles.
Noodles.
Isn't that what they're called?
That's their official.
Sorry,
Yeah.
That's their official title.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what he calls it, but he mangles the word obstacle. It's like something like obstacle, or no, that's the correct pronunciation. But there's only 2 or 3 of those words left. And Tanya Sweeney was kind of reminiscing about the times where when the children were really young, that she was really looking forward to the day that life would just be easier because they're toilet trained and they can verbalise what they want from you and they're sleeping properly. And now she's thinking, well, now the kids are at that stage where life
anymore.
Yeah, is easier. They don't need you anywhere near as much anymore, and B, you are now understanding that you spent a lot of those earlier years wishing for the later years.
For a while, when we were learning Ireland's call, it sounded a little bit like From the Four Proud Protestants of Ireland, which has always made me smile. I was trying to understand.
That's my house right there.
Who would the 4 be? Who would the 4 be? I was like Oscar Wilde, Jack Boothman. Are there other ones that you've been singing about in here? Anyway.
So we shouldn't correct them, I don't think.
I don't think so either. Like, what's the point? It's a waste of time.
It's a
for
reflex
me, I know
action,
more
though.
than you do because I'm fucking old.
But do you not want to help them do things properly? There's not an innate sense of I'm here to assist your development.
They go to school. They learn this stuff.
But a teacher's never going to really pull them up on the pronunciation of a word.
How does that work when you're coaching them in the back garden to play football? I mean, mine tune out straight away as soon as I start going, this is what you should do. And I go, sorry, what? No. What do you know?
Well, I often,
You're a
the younger
tiger
guy
parent.
in particular, he gets angry when I say, no, hang on, just give me the ball for 1 sec. I want to show you what it is you're trying to do here. And he just goes, oh, what? No. But how will you know how to do it if you don't let me show you how to do it? And he just gets angrier and angrier.
Because he'll eventually just go out by himself and play a little bit and learn from his own mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I find the same with like trying to get them to take medicine that's going to make them stop feeling sick. But then they continue to feel sick because they won't take the medicine. And you're like, if you would just take the medicine, and then I get very, very angry about that. Yeah. It's like you need to help yourself. I need to learn some control over that because I don't have it.
I don't like strawberry. I like the orange flavour.
Or it's like walking to school in the middle of winter. I'm freezing. My hands are freezing. Okay, here's a pair of gloves. No, I don't want gloves. Okay, will you put your coat on? No, I don't want to put my coat on. What about your woolly hat? No, I'm not wearing a hat. At that point, you say, don't tell me you're cold again. If there's anybody who's cold, go find someone who gives a shit, because I no longer care if you are cold.
Yes.
I provided you. I've actually brought all of the utensils that will allow you feel warmer. Yeah. They're in the bag. If you're unwilling to put them on, go talk to someone else.
It's the same with like football socks at football matches. It's the same with Under Armour. When it was cold 3 weeks ago, sick for 2 weeks after it. I'm like, I mean, I hate to say I told you so, but I actually did predict this exact thing was going to happen.
Yeah. Football matches is a major bone of contention in my house, and I am firmly of the belief that the fact that maybe they're just 9, he should be able to get himself ready for the football match. And it's on him to have his shin guards, to have his boots, all of that. And I'm like, you spend all week, literally, from Mondays, who are we playing the weekend? What time's the game? Who's on my team? Where are we going? And then it's half an hour before leaving, and he's like sitting on the couch. Like, you going to get ready? Oh, you going to put on your socks? Oh, can you get my socks? Can you get my jersey?
2 minutes.
It's like, just get, if you're that into it. But is that too much pressure for a 9-year-old? Should I expect them to be able to? I went away 2 weekends ago, and a message went out. No. There was a family outing, and the kids were left behind, and they'd go to a match, and a message went out, the usual, make sure you have your shin guards. And then the message came out, somebody didn't bring their shin guards. It was my fucking son who didn't bring their shin guards. Now, I wasn't there. I was like, how'd you not remember your shin guard? Oh, yeah. Wait,
what age do you have to wear shin guards from?
What?
What age do you have to wear shin guards from?
Well, I'd say they should be wearing them from once they start going up, because when they get whacked in the shin, it will ease the pain somewhat. There's still no referees at under 10, but the odd time you'll come across the other coach might be a referee and will say...
In soccer, you need they're mandatory.
You're meant to be wearing them. But
oh, are they? Okay. Right.
Same way, mouth guard is mandatory in the Gaelic football.
Yeah, it's mandatory as you watch them playing the game, and every one of them has it in their hand as they... Oh, no, damn the ball. I better put it back in.
The point about the teaching the technique, Dave, I started to show a couple of clips. So one of the first clips I showed was like a TikTok, minute-long TikTok of Stephen Gerrard doing like unbelievable sliding. I was trying to get him to like just be a bit more, what's the word? Get stuck in. Get stuck in. Let's tame it down a small bit to get stuck in. But I mean, I guess so. So I showed him like a Stephen Gerrard clip of doing all these sliding tackles, and then he just took that so literally and just went down to the session and just did sliding tackles everywhere. And then, so I had to adopt the Ray Wilkins. No, you got to stay on your feet. And he was like, no, but show me this thing. Anyway, I've showed him some stuff, and that does seem to resonate better with him than me telling him. Like to the point we were looking at Maradona stuff. Look, he's on about Maradona and Figo now every week.
Right.
He does his list of who are the best footballers in the world. Who are the best footballers in the world? And it's generally he's got like a list of 5, including Maradona and Figo. It's not the worst list to put together.
Great conversation to be having as well. Just never ending. Who's better, Messi or Ronaldo? Thankfully, that question has stopped in the last 6 months since Ronaldo decided
both the shower pricks.
His career was over, and Messi decided he wanted to follow him pretty quickly after that. But now it's who's the best striker in the world, Daddy? Is it Haaland or is it Mbappe? Who should Manchester United sign this summer? Do you think they'll sign Erling Haaland? Unlikely. Unlikely, I'd say.
It's not a 0% chance. It might be 0.0. But
on that, going off at a tangent, this is the Dadcast, so Paul Kimmage can't write about this in the Sunday Indo about me talking about my kids' jersey selection. One of my kids wants to get a Newcastle jersey.
Yeah?
Which I am refusing to allow him.
Because of the sports washing?
Exactly. Now, again, where do you start and where do you end with that is the problem.
Well, that is the very
So,
what about when he wants a Dublin jersey?
Well, he already has that, which is a greater issue.
I mean, you've already,
he also says home advantage is not important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't. He won't ever see the Dubs again because of GEA goals. So it's he's one of the underprivileged. Do I just let him have the Newcastle jersey?
Well, do we have to have those conversations with our children? My son is a Manchester United fan, and I told him that potentially there will be a change of ownership of the club in future months that could lead to us having to have a long chat about the rights and the wrongs of it.
But, would Shells be your nearest League of Ireland club as well?
Where are we? We're in Raheny, so
will be, yeah.
Shells or Bows are probably equidistant, but
you're not cool enough for Bows.
You have to drive past Shells to get to Bows from Raheny. Literally,
not really.
You do. It's at the bottom of.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but look, that's by the by.
Yeah.
Are children too young to be worrying about such things? Should I be discussing the human rights record of a regime in the Middle East with my 8-year-old?
It's not that difficult. The people who own this club are really nasty, and if we buy this jersey, we're giving them money. Do you want to give money to the nasty people?
Yeah.
Well, that's like, in fairness, I have had that conversation with him now several times. Why? I love Alexander Isak. Why can't I get his jersey? And again, you're saying like Alexander Isak hasn't done anything wrong here. Maybe he should be allowed to have his jersey. But it is in his, every time he brings it up, he goes, I'm not allowed to have them because of the country that owns them. So it's the first time he's ever thought about something like this, that all may not be pure.
I don't think it's that complicated a conversation, though. Do you know what I mean?
But is the issue that he that you are paying your hard-earned money over to Newcastle United, or that he is wearing a Newcastle jersey. So if you were to get him a knockoff of some description,
Well, I was
is
wondering.
that a different conversation?
It's like you're actually screwing them twice.
So
I hadn't thought about that.
You know.
But he's the son of a.
But
really
who's making your knockoff jersey? Well, who's making your actual jersey as well?
would you be worried that your son might go through all of your clothes and check the labels and the countries at which all of these clothes are manufactured, and then lay them out on the kitchen
Listen,
table
your
and say,
mobile
Listen,
phone.
listen. If we start getting into us being hypocrites,
We're
kind
screwed.
of screwed here.
This podcast's over.
That's yeah.
But that is a
breakdown,
valid
folks.
question. At what point do you have to look at yourself before you tell your son that he can no longer support Manchester United?
Do as I say, not as I do, David. I mean, one of the founding principles of the Dadcast.
And if you were, it's one of the reasons I felt, I know we've kind of gone down a more sporting route, but it is still a conversation that people may have to have with their sons and daughters out there. If you have been a Newcastle United supporter for 60 years, 70 years, and because they are now owned by a regime that you disagree with, suddenly you just switch that tap off?
No, I think
It's just not doable.
I have a lot of sympathy for those people. A lot of sympathy for those people because they find themselves in a moral quandary. But his son is the ultimate Johnny come lately. He's like just clambering aboard the bandwagon.
Bloody hell.
No room. No room.
It's a hatchet job. Maybe he.
You doing that?
Since back in the days of Mirandinha, he's had a soft spot for Newcastle United. Tino Asprilla, all these guys. No, he wasn't born, but yeah. But the way they consume sport, that side of it doesn't exist because it's all YouTube videos and, as you say, best goals and the never-ending Togdad, is it, and Togden and these guys. Like, they don't talk about the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's pretty tricky, isn't it?
I'd love to get some of our listeners' thoughts on it, because you could keep extending the conversation and get into the whataboutery of it. And it's
endless. It is endless.
It is endless.
Yeah. Dadcast at offtheball.com if you want to get in touch on that. I don't know. Do we stream this on YouTube afterwards? We don't. We don't stream this currently on YouTube. Okay.
But it is on.
But
it goes on YouTube.
so there are
yes.
comments.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, I should have been checking those
One
comments.
guy always goes, Jesus Christ,
And that's it.
in like how is this happening? But then there's generally I love this.
Okay. Well, there you go. Our little community. Thanks very much.
50-50 is a good ratio on YouTube.
We are going to see if anybody would like to come to a live show. So we might do a live Dadcast in Dublin. And then if, there are other reasons for us to go outside of Dublin, we would very much appreciate that.
Yeah.
We would prefer that. If you would like Dadcast to come to your tiny little town,
To your parish.
Yeah.
We will come.
If there's a
The parish
hotel
hall.
that we have to drive down there and stay the night down there and do a show, we're
So
willing to do that.
please follow us on Twitter at DadcastPod and we'll tweet that out. But here's the thing, none of us have any blue ticks, so no one sees our tweets anymore. If a dad shits in the wood and nobody hears it,
Will Adrian pick it up 4 days later?
probably not. Had it all dried out? Had it dried out and gone white? Like a dog's?
It was summertime shit, if I remember rightly. I don't know if it hadn't quite gone white, no.
Right. Some email from correspondence. Hey lads, on Alan's question number 2, maybe we were just lucky. This was from a previous episode where we'd had a listener talk about the second baby coming, not a poo. Just to the number 2, clarifying that one. On Alan's question number 2, maybe we were just lucky. But our eldest didn't act up at all, at least that we noticed when number 2 arrived. He was 2.5 at the time, and we didn't have a present from the newborn, had actually never heard of this approach, but we did introduce the baby to our eldest long before he actually arrived. He would listen to mum's tummy, feel it kicking, listen to bedtime stories with it, and we just tried to share our excitement with him as much as possible. So maybe that worked. Or like I say, maybe we were just lucky. When number 2 arrived, he was very receptive and didn't bat an eyelid. Taking him to meet his new brother for the first time is one of my favourite memories. He couldn't get there fast enough. We had the same experience when number 3 arrived and on the scene. So maybe some ideas for Alan there. Love the pod, lads. Great to have you back, says Danny Fitz. Thanks for that, Danny.
So it looks like that method has worked twice with him.
Yeah.
So they have a proper sample size. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that before. I've heard of, I'm sure at some stage we called the firstborn over to kind of listen to mommy's tummy and maybe feel the baby kicking or something, or if you want to talk to the baby grand. But it wasn't like a methodical approach. It wasn't something we did on a regular basis. It just would have been a one-off. We might have had the thought in our minds just for one moment. But if that works, it's a good idea. I think they have got lucky, though, for it to go right for them twice. Now, in our experience, it wasn't it wasn't really a difficult one. It wasn't dreadful or anything, but you have your moments. They're still massively put out, as we talked last week.
Yeah.
Their world is still being turned upside down because, 100% of the love on offer is no longer all being channeled in one direction. It has to be split some way.
Yeah. Your heart just gets bigger, was how it was explained to me by my mum when I was a kid. Now I realize that's not true. That's just not true. Your heart's fixed in size. It cannot grow. I've got one more. Will I do it?
Yeah.
Good morning. So glad you guys have continued to do the Dadcast. I first started listening while my wife was snoring. What's that a reference to, Adrian?
It's an unusual one. I think we've discussed that in the pod before.
No. Wives don't snore, do they, Adrian?
Not that I'm aware of, Jar.
Not lately.
My wife and I are struggling with the toilet training of our now 3.5-year-old son. For the last 6 months, we've been trying every trick and technique in the book for toilet training my young bloke. It seems to me he's just lazy and doesn't want to use the toilet, even with his rewards chart and giving him toy cars and an overall reward of a scooter when he fills his poop and wee charts. I get him to sit on the toilet and he does nothing. Then 10 minutes later, he'll do it in his undies. He does do the odd bush wee, and wee isn't really the problem. It's the poop. Sometimes the undies are so bad, I just chuck it in the bin. We have all been there. Any help, pointers, or do we just keep persevering with the praise and treats and hope it clicks? Thanks, Daniel C. in Tarago, New South Wales,
Wow.
Australia. I might have butchered the pronunciation. Tarago?
What's
Tarago?
your over-under on the number of pairs of underpants / boxer shorts that you've binned over the years?
Incalculable. I think I probably was a bit more brutal with them than I could have been. They were much more salvageable, but I just assumed that as soon as it appears, it's like, no.
What do you think the percentage difference is, though, between your rate of throwing them away and your wife's rate of throwing them away?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I'd say
I've definitely
I had
salvaged
0
a few.
times. Like, nah.
I've salvaged a few over the years, but there's a point at which it's no longer achievable.
I should I had all these hippie notions of I'm not going to create more landfill and have this plastic which will out-survive the planet. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, my parents would have washed
Disposable
nappies.
nappies.
Non-disposable, yeah.
Those cloth nappies that we would have worn when we were kids.
And then as soon as it happened,
Hanging
I
on
was
the
like,
washing line.
no way. Oh my God, because it's so disgusting. It's you've a vague idea what shit smells like, you think, from
Or
your
looks
own
like,
experience.
or what in your own mind you've
Well,
an
you
image.
don't.
You've
You
an
haven't a
image of
clue.
what the texture of a dump should be, and yet it never appears that way.
It's like those gazillion colour palettes that they have. You're like, oh.
There's few things, though, as smug as a parent who has gone through this, where you're like, yeah, we've been there, like the charts, the sitting there for half an hour waiting, and then they get off and straight away poop in their pants. The sense that they're never going to get it. That sounds like an eldest child. Eldest child, always the worst.
I was just going to say, is it mentioned in the correspondence?
By
that
our
that
third,
is
she
their first
was,
child?
and again, just I'd say, girls a bit smarter. She was, I'm up and ready. I want to look after myself. Whereas the eldest, oh my God. The one bit of advice you would always give is give up at some stage. Take a break.
Oh yeah.
Say,
don't keep going.
If you've gone a month and you've tried everything and it's not improving and you're about to kill the child, just go.
Yeah,
You
not
know
worth
what?
it.
Let's take a month off here and let's come back when they're good and ready.
I think it doesn't. I'm not sure, but I presume this is the potty that they're training, or the potty exists, and so you forget that
Running around after.
you do forget that you were delighted when another human would take a shit in your kitchen. It was the best thing that happened all week.
I don't think I've been as proud of either of my boys since that moment. I mean, what an
Dinner's
achievement!
ready. Hold on a second.
It's got to the stage now though where we have a bathroom beside the kitchen, and now it's like, I can't believe that somebody would go to the toilet while we're eating. I'm like, I mean, do you not remember that we used to encourage them to just squat? Gobble and squat.
Gobble and squat.
There was a restaurant called Squat and Gobble around the corner from us when we were on our J1s, and now I realise that it might actually not have been.
3.5 years old, obviously you would hope that there'll be a good distance down the road in terms of getting there.
I don't remember what age at all.
Well, but Are they in play school and Montessori? They probably are. It depends on your circumstances as well. I mean, some parents kind of need it to happen before others. If the Montessori or the play school demands that your children are potty trained when they arrive, if they're going to school maybe earlier at the age of 4 or 4.5, which would obviously be young to start junior infants, but some children still do end up in that situation, that you really are keen for it to be in the rearview mirror at that point. But if you can avoid rushing it and the stress and the frustration, which I know they're just words, it's just so easy to say that, because I remember what it was like with our older guy, and as Nathan says, that does sound like a firstborn.
So take a break, don't stress it, it'll come good.
It will come good. And
there's very few 9-year-olds shitting their pants in school.
And if you do have one of those, we feel your pain.
But our second guy picked it up so quickly because he saw, and even the, you know, the way you would encourage your son to sit down if he's doing a number one, if sit down on the toilet, he refused because he was going, well, that guy never sits down when he's doing a wee, so why would I? So we had to get like this giant potty, huge step for him to be able to clamber up on, so he could reach it from the very start. And we thought it was great. This is great, but because of what he's seeing on a daily basis, I need to replicate what he's at. So if this couple have a second child at some stage, they will find that it is immeasurably easier. But 3.5, I wouldn't be hugely concerned. Just keep trying. Take that break if you have to. I don't think the incentives work, and boys are lazy.
Oh,
they're
like
just...
You go full circle. Are you back at the stage again where you're encouraging them to sit down for a number one? Because there's nothing more child comes into the room in the morning. I'm just going to run into the ensuite there, and you're this, and they're like,
you can hear it. You can hear it from where you are.
I don't hear. That doesn't feel like it's hitting the water there. So where is it going?
Only one place.
Like it, I wouldn't say it's hugely different in sound. Whereas if you woke up in the middle of the night and the house was on fire, and you sat in your bed while a fireman went into the toilet and put the fire out with his actual hose, I don't think the sound would be that different. The power, the surge that they deliver first thing in the morning, and as you say, Nathan, you're like, at best, we've got a little bit of blowback here. At best, at worst, it's going to be a cataclysmic scene when I head in there in a few minutes. Do not walk in your bare feet or stocking feet. You need to get the shoes on before you visit the scene of the crime. And then there are times where, I know I sent you another thing this morning about there was a study done in Poland where apparently 10% of parents say in a poll that they regret having children. There are moments when you are on your hands and knees on a Saturday morning, maybe after a few pints the previous night, with like a huge wad of kitchen roll, cleaning the bathroom floor.
And the kids aren't even there.
Where you're thinking, would I be one of those 10? If I was polled on this question right now, would I be one of those 10? Yeah, I'd look, you can say that as often as you want. I don't think I'd encourage them to sit down. Are we at that point where you're encouraging your boys to sit down?
Why not? You know, they're going to end up sitting down anyway because they want to use their phones. I mean, we may as well just like train.
People don't talk about that enough, do they?
The
loss
future.
The quick piss is gone.
Yeah. Well, what's the point?
Lock yourself in the bathroom for like half an hour.
Okay. I was completely opposed to a dog for years. I grew up in a house with no dogs. I knew I'd get landed with the bulk of the jobs, and yet 2 little dogs arrived, and 8 years later they're such a joyous addition to the family. Even with jobs, they are amazing, says at Austin Stacks Abu. And how are you?
People are like, the dog fraternity, you don't want to get in the wrong side of them, so
they're
people are afraid.
They're like hurting people.
Exactly. People are afraid to send in their horror stories when it comes to dogs because people will judge them because of that.
Big dog industry is they've got a vice-like grip on the media and they're not letting go.
Have any progress in the last week or so on the dog front?
No, it's still bubbling away. We've basically also, like, our lazy kids have been too busy to deal with it. Frank Gilligan's been in touch on our last YouTube to say, I'm old enough to remember listening to Ali against Liston on my dad's radio. There's lots of ways to live in the moment. Doing those things that was our conversation. It's like,
as in he was sitting with his dad listening to the wireless. Yeah, but he's reflecting on that now after the moment. We're talking about when it's actually happening, that you're ensuring that you're fully in the present.
But do we decide that that's simply not possible because you're having to press pause on the moment that you're having to say, I'm living this
No,
moment
but yeah,
right now?
that's where I disagreed, though. I think that if you are capable of taking 2 seconds while it's happening to say to yourself, this is class, that you're enhancing your embracing of that moment rather than wasting 2 seconds by actually having that thought.
Mairead Weaver's been in touch to say, I'm delighted Dadcast is back. About pocket money and teenagers, I have a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old, and it's probably more expensive to keep them running. Although it is easier to say no, as they definitely understand money and budgets. They both have had part-time job experience and now fully understand how hard they need to work to get a pittance. They will still tap you up for cash, though, and clothes, shoes, runners. Lately, gigs like Longitude, which for those of us not living in Dublin, is the price of a nice teenager-free week in the sun. Keep up the good work from a mammy, not a daddy. Imagine being kid-free for a full week. Wow.
Do you ever wonder, though, going back to that poll that was done in Poland, do you ever wonder what a child-free life would be like?
I mean, sometimes, but like not in a regretful way.
No, but just like a wistful way, as in, what would it have been like? So I said to some friends of mine, so think of all the money that you have spent on your children.
Oh, all the money
Right?
that e'er I
Like,
had.
You're
I
talking
spent it on my bloody kids.
tens and tens of thousands of euro. And depending on how many children you have, you can multiply that. Would you have that money now just sitting there in a bank account, or would you have spent it?
Well, clearly I'm going to say no.
You would have just spent it all. So you wouldn't actually be any wealthier than you are now.
You'd have had slightly nicer food and booze and
Yeah.
trips and...
Yeah, but you would have
life.
spent it though.
Well, I don't know.
Just would have spent the money on different things.
Maybe at some point you start saving. Maybe you live in a slightly nicer house. You know, I mean,
But a slightly nicer, bigger house with even more space in it and not filled with children.
With noise and love.
Yeah, and the
Shit.
who knows?
pitter patter of
They-
tiny feet.
Like, I mean, the whole point of sliding doors is that there are moments in your life that life goes off one direction, it goes off the other one. I mean, I don't think that your life would have been completely different. Of course it would, you know?
And it also comes back to something we mentioned before, that it depends whether you are in a headspace of wanting children or not. So if you don't have children and you desperately wanted children, that's a very different feeling to not having children,
By
having
choice.
never wanted children.
Yeah, exactly. Michael
Adrian Barry's desperate to get in. I can see it in his eyes.
No, I've tried to get in 3 times and I've been shouted down. So
you see, if you were just in person, we'd know that you'd give us a look.
Come on, give us
Little nod, a
rapid
glance.
fire Adrian Barry's hot takes.
fuck I'll say other than I presume the guy who's listening to Ali Liston was living in the moment. He was able to recall it 40 odd whatever the hell years later. So I presume that was the point. But that's just a constant battle, isn't it? It's like knowing to live in the moment enough without acknowledging it too much and then ruining the moment. Sure, that's every day.
Yeah, it's kind of a philosophy, right? Like you have to work on that because you forget about it all the time. Michael Buckley says, such a great pod. I'm not yet a dad. Jesus hate Christ, says Alan DBS. He seems to say that a lot. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, look, he's in touch. He's
I don't know if he's
corresponding.
recalling a single moment in the chat where it's just triggering him to say Jesus H. Christ on the podcast, or if it's like an overall commentary
All the
on
time.
the general shitness of the pod. It's hard to know.
Lake Island Man says, David and Amy, going from 1 to 2 is like going from the Championship to the Premier League.
In a good way?
I like...
Or that you're so out of your depth you'd want to get relegated in your first
Step
season
up in
back.
quality.
So we didn't find that, and that was lulling us into the false sense of security. We got this now. It's easy. Well, let's go again.
You've always said that ever since we started recording these podcasts, that you found 1 to 2 a walk in the park,
Yeah.
which I found amazing.
Well, it was
You
just
found it really tough.
knew what you were doing. You knew all of the stuff that was going to happen, and then it wasn't a shock. And you were already absolutely, completely exhausted the whole time, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, maybe I'm contradicting something I said 3 years ago on this, but I definitely found 2 to 3 was easier.
Oh,
1
really?
to 2 was just carnage. 2 kids under 16 months. And I get the whole you're tired already, but then you're really bloody tired. Now maybe number 3 was just a bit easier and slept better, and I just felt a lot calmer about everything.
Yeah.
And definitely better at doing that thing of remembering the moments a lot better with the third, whereas the first 2 was just
To blur.
head, frazzled, get through this, move on.
Yeah, survive.
That is why the technology obviously is far more kinder to us as parents than it would have been for our parents, because even just maybe not last weekend, the weekend before, two boys came into us at about 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the four of us were in the bed together, and I pulled the phone out and went into Google Photos. And the access that you have, just right, let's go back to November 2017. And then we just started playing all the videos.
Yeah.
And we were in the bed there for about 45 minutes watching all this old footage. And it's just incredible.
It is good.
And it's so funny. And you're trying, the couple of them, at one point, one of them might get offended, thinking we're all laughing at him for what he did in this video when he was 6 months old. We're not laughing at you. This is, we're having fun here. This is all of us laughing together.
We're
how amazing it used to be.
I know. Yeah, ours are pretty good at laughing at themselves for that. It's which is, they didn't get that from me.
I think on the point about the scaling up, we were away, and I mentioned we were off to Amber Springs a few weeks ago. We were down there. Nice enough spot. Nice enough.
Wow.
Lukewarm from the berries.
Jesus.
Yeah, to be honest, to be honest, a bit lukewarm, Dave. I'm not going to lie about it. We were there for 3 nights, and it was grand. Like, certainly see the attraction for the kids at the ages that ours are at now. I feel sort of to get a huge amount. In a couple of years' time, there's probably the stuff is a little bit too young. Like anything beyond sort of 7, 8, probably at that stage, you've probably outgrown some of the stuff that's down there. And it could probably just do with a bit of. What is the word? It felt a little bit sterile. So I don't know. It just needs a bit of injection of some, like, you're not in hospital type vibe.
If we didn't get any free stuff from them before,
Wow.
we sure as hell ain't getting.
Do you not
it.
find, because I was in a well, actually we did bring the kids there before, that every hotel is not great now. Like, they just can't get any staff.
The service was poor.
They just cannot get staff.
Yeah,
that's probably not unique to them. And like, I don't want to be overly critical. There's some stuff they
I don't want to be overly critical. It's a bit like a
It was a
hospital.
lovely 3 days. But yeah, it definitely, like the stuff that I think they could do with sort of upping a small bit didn't feel like such a big deal that it wasn't fairly straightforward to do, other than the service bit, which is definitely, I think, probably a industry-wide issue.
Definitely industry-wide. We had a great time. We really enjoyed our time at Amber Springs. We got one of the family rooms. Did you get a family room in the end? Or?
Yeah, family room. Lovely. But just, again, like, here's a huge big space. We'll lob in a bed and that'll be it.
It's basically
What?
That's what a room. Was there a TV?
There is, yeah.
There was.
I'm kind of at a loss though. Like, did you want, like a stripper pole or something in the? What was it that they would have added that would have given you some excitement?
Mirrors on the roof.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Do you know what this room is missing?
This hotel room is a goddamn hotel room. How dare it be a hotel room?
That's after taking it serious. Not intended on my part. Sorry. But no, just sterile. That's probably the best word I could come up with. It's just like lacking a bit of personality.
Well, I think it's good to get an updated review because, well, you had I definitely remember enjoying it, but it was the week before COVID we went there, so my entire memories are, I can't believe I was in that room with all those people at that one time. And there was 25 kids there coughing in my face, and I was comfortable with this. Okay. More reviews coming soon.
I'm sure, look, here, I'm sure there's plenty of people there all the time who absolutely love it and are not as much of a curmudgeon as me, so I'm sure that
this is true.
The point I was going to make was that we were sort of going along and we noticed like there might have been a couple there, let's say one kid, and obviously in our minds we're like, oh my god, that looks like absolute heaven, like that's Jesus, that we dream of the days of having one kid. And I do feel that sort of addition of the second kid for us was like, it felt like sort of more work of the same type of work, so it wasn't like absolutely sort of a revelation necessarily, but I do feel that then moving up to the third you kind of reflect on the 1 to 2 being less than it actually was at the time. That's my view on it. So when you have the third, you're like, you've got this experience of 3 crazies running around all the time and having to try and manage that, so you're like, oh, the 1 to 2 bit was easy, this thing now is much harder. Whereas actually when you're at that moment, or you're at the moment with the one kid, those parents were stressed out of their minds, like.
Yeah. they don't. You feel like going over and tapping them on the shoulder and saying, "Do you not appreciate how good you have this?"
Yeah, because they're looking at their child, picking something up from the floor, going, "Oh my God, don't do that!" You haven't even noticed that your child's been on the floor for 25 minutes. You're like, he's under the table, I don't know what he's doing. And to be honest, thank Christ, let him stay there for the entire dinner.
I haven't seen my child for 25 minutes. I mean, God knows where they are.
There was a fair bit of that. We were down there with some friends, and there was a fair bit of that where they'd all sort of wander off, and you were obviously very safe environment.
We were at a hotel, similar kind of vibe and makeup and target market to the Amber Springs Hotel. And
Adair Manor.
but the younger guy just went missing. He disappeared. And
For how long?
it probably felt not longer than it was, but it was definitely panic for 5 or 10 minutes. But what someone had said, I've just seen a child get into a lift. So there's 3 or 4 of us clambered around the security screen at the reception where they have a camera on each lift, and they're watching all the lift doors on each floor opening and closing. See, can we find him? There he was, strolling around the hotel. Not a bother on him.
Right.
Absolutely not a bother on him. But that if that had been the first guy, I don't think we would have lost him, because we would never let him out of our sight. But everything just gets easier. Everything gets a little more relaxed. You know it's going to be okay.
What is your strategy in the moment? Pardon me. Is it to absolutely lose your shit so they never do it again? Or is it...
Well, I guess it depends at what level of panic did you reach. I mean, are you out of your own mind, at your wit's end yourself? I don't think we were, because we knew everything would be okay. But if I'm outdoors and if there's cars, for example, whizzing around the place, or it's a car park and I can't find him and he's wandered off, I probably will get angry with him. I'll say, look, you can't do that. What you've just done, you just cannot do that.
Yeah. And
there was a point where he was prevented from playing in a certain area for 2 weeks as a 2-week punishment, because he had
no more lifts.
Well, no, he had taken the previous 2 warnings and not heeded them and gone missing on me again. So I was like, well, that's it. You knew this punishment was coming. And in fairness, it worked. He hasn't done it since.
There you go.
But when you're at a point where there's mothers of other children who you don't know looking for your child, that is not a world you want to be in.
Everybody's judging. They say they're not.
They are going straight back and going, you won't believe those guys. Clink, clink. Not us.
Yeah. They'll verbally, to your face, they'll say, look, no, we've all been there. We've all been there. Don't worry about it. We'll get this sorted. In their own minds, you go.
My child would
3 minutes later, like, not for this long, though. Not for this long.
Are you worried? How worried are you? On a scale of 1 to 10, are you about like 8 or 9? Yeah. Well, on that cheery note, that's this week's episode of Dadcast. In partnership with Nivea Men. Want to feel great for your skin? Nivea Men has you covered. From sensitive tailored skincare to cleansing and anti-age. Try Ireland's #1 men's skincare brand. Dadcast@offtheball.com is the email address. We are going to go on tour, hopefully. Stay tuned to @DadcastPod and indeed some of our Twitter feeds if you can find them. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Dadcast with Nivea Men. Try Ireland's #1 skincare brand.